What if I told you that the incredible AI tools we're all playing with, from ChatGPT to Midjourney, might be built on a foundation of stolen work? It sounds dramatic, I know, but the legal and ethical storm brewing around AI models and copyrighted data is reaching a critical point, and it could reshape the digital landscape as we know it. For years, developers have been feeding these AI models vast datasets, trillions of words, billions of images, terabytes of code scraped from the internet. The idea was to teach AI how to understand and generate human-like content. But a huge chunk of that data, perhaps even the majority, is copyrighted. This isn't a new conversation, but it's gone from a quiet murmur among tech ethicists to full-blown courtroom battles and congressional hearings. We're well past the Wild West days. The sheriffs are here, and they've got subpoenas. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. The core issue boils down to two main questions. First, is training an AI model on copyrighted material without permission an infringement? And second, can AI-generated content itself be copyrighted? On the training data front, the lawsuits are piling up faster than a tech company's quarterly earnings report. The biggest one generating headlines right now is the New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft, filed late last year. The Times is suing for potentially billions of dollars, alleging that OpenAI's ChatGPT models were trained on millions of their articles without permission or compensation, and are now directly competing with them by generating content derived from their reporting. This isn't just about using the data, it's about the AI parroting Times content, sometimes verbatim, undercutting their subscriptions and journalistic integrity. But it's not just the Times. Authors like Sarah Silverman, Mona Awad, and Christopher Golden filed a class action lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging similar copyright infringement. Getty Images also sued Stability AI, claiming their AI art generator copied millions of their images to train its models, going so far as to sometimes reproduce Getty's own watermarks. The defense from AI companies like OpenAI and Stability AI often hinges on fair use, arguing that training an AI is transformative and doesn't directly compete with the original work, similar to how a human might read and learn from copyrighted books. However, critics argue that the scale is unprecedented. It's one thing for a human to read a million books. It's another for a machine to ingest that same volume and then monetize the learned patterns without any contribution back to the original creators. The Authors Guild has been a strong advocate, emphasizing that if AI companies don't pay for the data they consume, it will devastate the creative industries. Then there's the other side of the coin, the copyright status of AI-generated content. The US Copyright Office has been pretty clear on this. Generally, content created solely by an AI cannot be copyrighted. They've stated that for a work to be copyrightable, it must have human authorship. A famous example is the Zarya of the Dawn graphic novel, where the Copyright Office initially granted registration but later cancelled parts of it, specifically excluding the AI-generated images because they lacked sufficient human creative input. They clarified that human authorship is a prerequisite to copyright protection. So, what does all this mean for us? If the courts side with the copyright holders, AI companies could face massive damages, potentially forcing them to license training data, radically changing their business models. Imagine every AI interaction costing more, or AI models becoming less capable because they're trained on smaller, curated datasets. This could also lead to a massive redistribution of wealth back to creators, which would be a huge win for artists, writers, and musicians. But if the courts largely uphold the fair use defense, we could see an acceleration of AI development, potentially at the expense of human creators. The value of original content might further erode if AI can endlessly remix and regurgitate it without compensation. It raises fundamental questions about the future of creativity, intellectual property, and even what it means to be an author in the digital age. These rulings will set precedents for decades. They will dictate whether AI is seen as a new tool to empower human creativity or as a technological parasite that profits from it without permission. It's a high-stakes game being played out in courtrooms and regulatory bodies worldwide, including discussions about potential new legislation. This isn't just a legal fight for corporations. It's a battle over the future of creativity, compensation, and who benefits from the digital commons we've all built together. So, I have to ask, do you think AI companies should have to pay for the data they train on? And should AI-generated content ever truly belong to anyone?